Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the Six Sigma webinar series. My name is Dr. Faiz Shah. I'm director of the UNIS Center at AIT, and I also look after the development management department. It's a pleasure for us to have two guests. Of course, our regular presenter, Mr. Mohammed Ali Toosy from Toosy Advisory Services, and Mr. Diogo Jorge from E-Rising Portugal and Técnico Lisboa, the Technical University in Lisbon. So the topic for today, as you have all seen, is what does Six Sigma mean across cultures? We all know that Six Sigma is an optimization strategy. These are tools that allow organizations, whether they are service or production organizations, to increase efficiencies, to build faster, more efficient processes, and convert them into to economic or business advantage. So it's a recognized methodology, and Lean Six Sigma has its various interpretations in various industries. So it's my pleasure to welcome our two presenters today, both of whom are Six Sigma black belts, which is the highest level, master black belts, which is the highest level that one can attain in this area of expertise. So Mr. Mohammed Ali Toosy is the Chief Executive of Toosy Advisory Services, and he's had years of experience after his Masters in Business Administration from the UK. He's consulted on corporate change management and Lean Six Sigma advisory in a number of industries, including manufacturing, fast-moving commercial goods, defense, healthcare, and banking, and of course, IT. Mr. Diogo Jorge is founder and CEO and project manager founder of E-Rising, which is a Six Sigma consultancy based primarily in Portugal, but working all over Europe and other places. And his job is to provide not only training and consultancy services, but they have a remote assistance program for clients where without moving or without creating mobility issues for people, E-Rising helps with Six Sigma solutions for members and clients. Of course, as project manager for the Institute Superior Technical of Lisbon, Diogo also looks after relatively large projects, which are mostly funded through government and commercial interests. And his job is to optimize and build efficiencies in projects. So we've got two very experienced people from, of course, Toosy originates in the UK, but most of his work is now in Asia. And of course, we find that this kind of perspective is very important. The topic, of course, as we all know for today, is does culture and does location and does context in any way impact how Six Sigma is perceived, how it is understood, how it is delivered, and how it is actually rolled out for efficiencies and what it means to various people. So very exciting subject. And personally, as somebody who's always a student of organizational efficiencies, for me, this perspective and this 360 look at how it works across cultures is fascinating myself. So welcome, gentlemen, on our seminar series. Let's see, our first kind of question is the one that I've already kind of thrown out. And that's, what does Lean Six Sigma actually mean to people you talk to? So when you go into a meeting with a client or somebody expresses an interest in efficiencies in organizational optimization, what do you find as the most common questions they ask you, and how do they perceive Six Sigma? So let's start first with perhaps the UK and Pakistan and some of the Asian countries, the Middle East that Toosy works with, and then let's move to Europe. Yep.
Yes. Well, in Europe, in England, most of the people would understand what Lean Six Sigma is. It's much more commonly understood. It's much more commonly received. And the question in England, whether Lean Six Sigma should be used or not, that question was answered around, I would say, 20 odd years ago. And that conversation doesn't happen anymore because they don't ask whether we need it or not in England. They know that they need it. Mm-hmm. So now that the question has started over there in that culture, that how and what is it going to be for us? So, but in Pakistan, generally, we lack awareness. We lack awareness. Some people have the awareness. Some people have very deep awareness of that. Some people don't. And one of the most common things which I face is that, especially because of the skill set title of black belt and master black belt, is misunderstanding that this is some type of karate or something like that. So there is a cultural, there's a concept of karate which is associated with Lean Six, with master black belt and black belt. So that actually question comes very often in conferences, and sometimes in even meetings. And sometimes I've even heard that you don't look as lean as a master black belt. You don't look that. I mean, I've recently reduced weight, but still I need to reduce more weight. And before I was around more than 10 kilos in this. So they say that you don't look like a fighter. And then I have to explain that no, it's not for fighting. It's actually for management. It's actually to find out how to get to the right root cause and fix the problem instead of just trying to fix it in a firefighting mode. So that's one thing which I would say it's a task. It's a task to tell people. It's a task to create awareness, and it's a task to make people understand what it means to change and what it means to change in a prioritized way in which it's more effective.
Right. This is interesting how people, the mental image that, say, a master black belt might create in people who are not completely familiar with this tool. How is it in Europe, Diogo?
Hello, first of all, and thank you, Toosy, thank you, Faiz and AIT for inviting me as a speaker. So I would say that, as you may know, Lean, continuous improvement or Kaizen, and Six Sigma are different methodologies or work frames. And Lean and Six Sigma combined is a very powerful one of the most powerful ones. In Portugal in particular, companies who combine Lean and Six Sigma are, they use it well and profoundly, and they are not, they are just a few, okay? They are typically from multinational groups who have its origins in USA or other countries. But then there are a lot of companies in Portugal who just claim that they use just Lean or continuous improvement methodologies. These are mostly Portuguese origin companies, okay? Also, we have here in Portugal some other, let's say, working methodologies that combine those. And for example, a bigger retailer here in Portugal, which is called Sonai, have their own Improve Our Work AOW methodology. But to answer your question, I think that for people in Portugal and in general, Lean Six Sigma is seen, of course, as a powerful work frame to eliminate process variability, and finally to work with issues or to solve issues related with quality, time, and cost, which is the Lean Six Sigma triangle. And it is well implemented either in production, packaging, quality, and even in administration processes such as bureaucracies or information flow. So I would say that is very similar to what Toosy described as it is in England or in UK. So,
right.
Yeah.
What about your experience in the rest of the continent? I mean, it's very similar. I've understood that there could be cultural variations to this. A little bit more, perhaps, on if people understand when you say Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma to a company or a client. Do they immediately understand what you're talking about?
No. In particular, our niche as Rising, we typically work in the SMEs, medium companies who don't have a major contact with Lean Six Sigma reality. So typically, it's Rising who first come with the concept of belts and the concept of Lean Sensei, and okay, so yeah, they know about Lean, they know about continuous improvement, but this concept of Lean Six Sigma, it must be us, the ones who introduce it to at least to our clients. So
Well, this is interesting also because today's topic is about cultural or cross-cultural perceptions and cross-cultural adaptations of this whole method. And so I think it's important to maybe dig a little bit more deeper in what people think they are listening to, or what are they expecting you to come up with, when you walk into, when E-Rising or TAS walks into a meeting and they've already kind of indicated that the topic or the discussion is going to be process optimization, efficiencies, resource conservation, and generally saving the company resources, time, etc., and converting them into higher profitability. So that's something that every company wants to hear. We all know that. But when you walk into it, I was trying to get a sense of what they're expecting you to come up with, not what you just said, as Toosy said, that you talk about it and they think it's some kind of a martial art kind of a deal, or it's some kind of a fitness deal. I'm sure that's very easy to overcome because the agenda of the meeting would be defined. But what do they actually expect you to come up with?
Well, I suppose the question is for me, right?
One by one. Since you're already answering it, so I thought we'll go back.
Exactly. Well, I think that one of the major issues in Lean Six Sigma projects are the expectations. Expectations that typically and namely for the CEO and for the administration of the company, people tend to imagine that this is a very agile process with quick results, and it is not. I think it is a journey, and I think when a Six Sigma project takes in place, we must do it properly, and we must let's say give insights to all the team that this won't be an immediate result. This won't be a revolution that now we will work inside a machine or something. It is a baby step process so that people can slowly see the progress, slowly see the evolution, slowly see the cultural change. And at least in our clients, sometimes people tend to think that in 1 month results will be spectacular, and the reality is that it is not that. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 1 year. It is a very long process to get involved with people, with the team, and to motivate them to be part of the cultural change and the continuous improvement process.
Right. So this is interesting. You mentioned that the expectations is of like a quick fix or a quick response. The expectations is of like a quick fix or a quick response or a quick set of results. Toosy, is that also the case in your experience?
Yes. The expectations is that you are going to come up with an idea. You're going to tell me what I'm supposed to do. And they generally think that you're going to get the data, you're going to do everything. I've given it to you, so you solve the problem. And that's not the way it is. Six Sigma is all about engagement. Six Sigma is a way in which you come up to the root cause. And the only way you can come up with the root cause is to gather information correctly. And the gathering process has to be as strong as it can be, because if the initial data is not, the data integrity is not there, or the initial data is wrong, every analysis which is done on that data would be flawed. So that's why Six Sigma also focuses on the basic data. And what people don't understand is that to get the real data, you have to engage the people who are doing the work at the floor. You need to have people, you need to have engagement and involvement and be able to have visibility of what they're doing, and ease in which they can actually feel free to talk to you. You need to overcome such barriers. And that is one of the problems which we face, is that they think that sometimes, most of the time, they would think that, okay, it's a big challenge that I have given you a task to actually do it. Now, where is the data? Give me something quickly. And the most important thing about Lean Six Sigma is, especially the Six Sigma part, is that whatever decision you make, whatever statement you make it after proving it through proper facts and figures. You just don't jump to conclusions. And the difference between Six Sigma and other methodologies is that it's more reality based. The accuracy of the information and the accuracy of the output of the information is more, because the basis of the information is supposed to be done right. So generally the major bulk of the work comes at a stage when you already have the data, and when you already have done the data, then the analysis comes. But another part of the work which is very essential and is key to success is to get the right data and make sure that the person who's telling you the data is even, I would say, comfortable to tell you the data. And you have to make sure that the measurement, whatever you're doing it consistently, and the proper data integrity is there. And I was having a discussion with a friend of mine who's a data scientist in Ernst & Young in London, and he also agreed to the fact that the data integrity is the most important thing in the analysis. Because if you've got the wrong data, if you're doing the wrong, if you're trying to do analysis on incorrect data, everything's going to be wrong. So that is something which is a problem in my area in Pakistan, is because they think that I've outsourced you this work, now you do it yourself. Yeah. And that's not the way it's done. You've outsourced me to mentor, you've outsourced me to analyze. You've not outsourced me to become the CEO. So, I mean, something like that. You have not done that. And that's not possible. And that's not even the role of Six Sigma initiative. It's not a substitute for management. It's just a substitute for getting into the root cause and improving things.
What you've described so much in detail and effectively, really, for me, is that expectations also matter. So if you go into a meeting and they're expecting you to come up and fix things for them, then that's probably a discussion you need to have with every client. That it's not about the consultant coming in and fixing stuff. It's providing the tools, providing the kind of the insights that come with Lean Six Sigma trainings and support that is essential to the company. Or a quick set of results. Toosy, is that also the case in your experience?
Yes. The expectations is that you are going to come up with an idea. You're going to tell me what I'm supposed to do. And they generally think that you're going to get the data, you're going to do everything. I've given it to you, so you solve the problem. And that's not the way it is. Six Sigma is all about engagement. Six Sigma is a way in which you come up to the root cause. And the only way you can come up with the root cause is to gather information correctly. And the gathering process has to be as strong as it can be, because if the initial data the data integrity is not there, or the initial data is wrong, every analysis which is done on that data would be flawed. So that's why Six Sigma also focuses on the basic data. And what people don't understand is that to get the real data, you have to engage the people who are doing the work at the floor. You need to have people, you need to have engagement and involvement and be able to have visibility of what they're doing, and ease in which they can actually feel free to talk to you. You need to overcome such barriers. And that is one of the problems which we face, is that they think that sometimes, most of the time, they would think that, okay, it's a big challenge that I have given you a task to actually do it. Now, where is the data? Give me something quickly. And the most important thing about Lean Six Sigma is, especially the Six Sigma part, is that whatever decision you make, whatever statement you make it after proving it through proper facts and figures. You just don't jump to conclusions. And the difference between Six Sigma and other methodologies is that it's more reality based. The accuracy of the information and the accuracy of the output of the information is more, because the basis of the information is supposed to be done right. So generally the major bulk of the work comes at a stage when you already have the data, and when you already have done the data, then the analysis comes. But another part of the work which is very essential and is key to success is to get the right data and make sure that the person who's telling you the data is even, I I would say, comfortable to tell you the data. And you have to make sure that the measurement, whatever you're doing, is you're doing it consistently, and the proper data integrity is there. And I was having a discussion with a friend of mine who's a data scientist in Ernst & Young in London, and he also agreed to the fact that the data integrity is the most important thing in the analysis, because if you got the wrong data, if you're doing the wrong, if you're trying to do analysis on incorrect data, everything's going to be wrong. So that is something which is a problem in my area in Pakistan, is because they think that I've outsourced you this work, now you do it yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it's done. You've outsourced me to mentor. You've outsourced me to analyze. You've not outsourced me to become the CEO. So, I mean, something like that. You have not done that. And that's not possible. And that's not even the role of Six Sigma initiative. It's not a substitute for management. It's just a substitute for getting into the root cause and improving things.
What you've described so much in detail and effectively, really, for me, is that expectations also matter. So if you go into a meeting and they're expecting you to come up and fix things for them, then that's probably a discussion you need to have with every client.
Yes.
That it's not about the consultant coming in and fixing stuff. It's providing the tools, providing the kind of the insights that come with Lean Six Sigma trainings and support that is essential to the company. So again, I would say that's an interesting challenge, because when you go in with certain other services, such as, installing certain technologies or setting up certain information loops, or the other consulting stuff that goes into manufacturing or service sector process level changes, often we see that there are applications, there are kind of process re-engineering solutions that are really, you just bring them in and you stick them into a process and they begin to, or at least they claim to begin to show results. Whereas what you gentlemen are telling me is that when Lean Six Sigma is brought into a company, it's not about the solution itself, but the thinking, the skills, and the attitude that goes into determining where certain needs have to be met and how those needs can be met from within the company's own resources. I think that's a very important point. And I think that's something that I should also say, that when we run those Six Sigma trainings soon, like the green belt and then the black belt, I hope, so what we're going to be offering our participants are not quick fixes or band-aid solutions or, what they call plug and play kind of deals. This is an institutional transformation methodology, and that the tools and the insights that the training will deliver will not only bring the solution, they will bring the skills that determine solutions. I think that's a very important point you make, gentlemen, and I think that's why AIT is so keen on promoting the Six Sigma Academy, because that's what our job. We are not a consultancy outfit, we are a university, and our job is to provide the human upgrades, the skilling, the competencies that will allow people to fix their systems. So that's a great point. Thank you. But here, as we move forward into this conversation, I'm also mindful that the service sector and the manufacturing sector, or the production sector, have very distinct needs, right? So you talked about data points, you talked about attitudes, you talked about skills and processes. So I'd like to ask from each of your own perspectives in Asia as well as in Europe, what is the difference between the service sector applications of a Lean Six Sigma program and the manufacturing sector expectations or advantages of a Six Sigma program? So shall we start with maybe Europe now and see if you can actually, if there is a difference between what your tools can deliver to the service and the manufacturing industries separately, or are they the same? And if they are not the same, what is the difference and what do you bring to it as experts and as capacity building consultants?
Yeah, I would say that the work tools, the work package, the toolkit is more or less the same, but I think, at least in Portugal, that those are two major different realities. And usually, at least here in Portugal, people think that Lean Six Sigma is a manufacturing manufacturing concept, okay? And I understand that mindset because the main difficulties in implementing Lean Six Sigma on services is that they are more process people driven and not machine or products that you can see. So maybe it is harder for these people to identify or quantify the defects and see that how can Six Sigma be a project, how can we implement a Lean Six Sigma project if we don't see, okay? And of course it is the counterwise is in manufacturing where you can see the product flow and so on. I have one example that this was one project of ours in a, let's say it's not completely a service company, but it was in a service area of the company. So this is the design department between the guy who designs the plastic part and the guy who designs the injection mold. So both conceptual must fit so that the tool can inject the plastic part. And they were having a lot of issues because they were wasting a lot of time in meetings, and their meetings were unstructured and sometimes crowded. And also because of this confusion, there were some misunderstandings and misinformation. So there was a lot of rework. Together as a team, we combined a team of e-rising and of those two departments. We did identify the value, what was the valued information, what was the value stream, and we created a flow in the design process. Okay, we've created step by step. You have to meet here, you have to meet here. This all was arranged with them, and the solution was developed by them. We just helped them to structure the methodology. But then the results were very fruitful. So the meetings started being with the correct intervenients. There were no longer misinformation, and the time process reduction was up to 30%. So, and nowadays they still 2 years after, they still are using this working methodology, and so I think this is a misunderstanding, at least here in Portugal and in the service sector, that people think that Lean Six Sigma is not applied to the service sector but only to the manufacturing. Right. Yeah, should I talk now about the manufacturing, or should I just ask Toosy for the service?
Yeah,
if a good practical example of your manufacturing experience, we could briefly have that now, and then we'll give like a similar time slot, and then Toosy can talk about his experience from Asia.
Okay, so in the manufacturing sector here in Portugal, I think that it's very well spread. A lot of SMEs, typically medium to large companies, have a lean mindset. A lot of companies have a lean sensei, let's say, or a continuous improvement expert. But the thing is that I don't think they take its full potential, because typically this department is made of one guy who quickly gets absorbed with the daily issues that his manager after asks him, oh please solve me this, oh please solve me that, and afterwards they start having not having time to properly structure a problem solving following let's say a DMAIC cycle of a problem solving methodology, and actually that's good for e-rising, because that's where we came in. We helped them, or we helped that guy to get a team, even if it's a part-time team, but to structure a proper continuous improvement process. But yeah, it's much more well spread, let's say, in the manufacturing sector here in Portugal.
Great. Well, I guess I needn't repeat the question, right, Toosy? You've figured out the answer already, I'm sure. So let's have a couple of examples of what basically differentiates, in your experience, the expectation and implementation challenges in
Yes.
service compared to manufacturing.
And it's the problem is there that people generally have been considering it's more manufacturing. Rather, I actually have to tell them that even the people who started, even Motorola, who started after 5 years, felt that they have lost billions of dollars by not using it in the service sector. So that's something which I say. And another thing which is, I once asked a black belt from a service industry who became a black belt, and I said, have you ever done a project? And the answer I unfortunately got was, no, I haven't. It's not applicable to the service sector. So that was a shocking thing for me, that even though the person had become a black belt, a Lean Six Sigma black belt, the person still did not understand that it was applicable to the service industry. And within the one thing which we have to actually make people realize is, and even within a manufacturing industry, generally 30% of the processes are manufacturing in nature. 70% are transactional in nature. And when we look at end-to-end, we don't look at just the machine working. We look at end-to-end because we're solving a problem. And we don't actually fixate our mind that our problem is only where we're looking at. We think that we have to go beyond our department thinking. We have to go cross-functional thinking. And sometimes we even go even beyond that and extend our solution towards our suppliers or something like that. And so that's a problem. In the service industry, there have been some really good examples in Pakistan in which the customer experience has improved, in which they have seen in multiple, the management has seen in multiple projects that yes, it's successful, it's aligning with their goals, which is improving customer experience. And at the same time, there are some where it's only driven because someone back in the head office outside of Pakistan says you need to do Lean Six Sigma. That's why they're doing it. So that's also a disconnect. So when it comes from inside, it would become better. When it comes from outside, it would be not that good. And I won't name, but there's been an organization in the service sector who told the black belt, I want you to give me data that who am I supposed to start reprimanding.
Yeah.
So the right answer was, I'm not going to do that. The right answer was that, because one of the most important thing is, if the Six Sigma guys start coming into the reprimanding type part, then the basic which I talked about, the data integrity would go, because then the Six Sigma guy would never get, the person who's applying Six Sigma would never get the right data. And when they don't get the right data, they're not going to come up with the right analysis. So the whole purpose of using scientific method just breaks down if you have the wrong intentions. So I've seen that in the service industry, and I've seen that in the manufacturing industry too. But the reality is, wherever it has been used, and used by the heart and soul of the organization, in which the management commitment is there and the backing is there, it has produced results. Wherever the management heart and soul is not aligned, there the problem comes up. That's something which is pretty prevalent.
Focusing on experiences across cultures, and in your experience, you worked in the UK, you worked in Middle East, you worked in Pakistan. I'd like to get a sense of what unique cultural differences there are that you are confronted with. I understand that a lot of times this desire to get a quick fix, desire to get an external solution that can be immediately bolted onto an organizational process is there. Is this expectation, or is this behavior across all cultures? That's probably the first question. And the second is, whatever you described as a challenge, is it exactly the same in all the various places that both of you gentlemen work in, or are there nuances to this that we must understand?
Well, I would actually first say that it is directly proportional to the culture of the country and the culture of the organization, how much management by fear is being done. In an open environment, in any open environment, whether it is in UK, whether that open environment is in Pakistan, or whether that open environment is somewhere else, it's going to be very similar. It's more about the environment of the organization and the leader, whoever's leading. It's more about that. Generally, I would say, because of the history, the people in UK, the implementation in UK have less obstacles about data. But even in UK, the reality is that it depends on the people who you're getting or the way you're getting data from. I mean,
but isn't this what I've understood is that it doesn't matter where you are, whether it's Europe, the UK, Portugal. It's the kind of organization you're you're dealing
It
with.
is organization too. It is organization.
If
A
an
country,
organization is more open to sharing their internal information, if it's more open to getting outsiders to take a look inside, and if the leadership is more amenable to sharing or exchanging data on organizational processes, then that provides you a more perhaps fertile ground for building a Six Sigma program. And when organizations do not have the openness, the cultural flexibility, and the leadership vision to adapt to change, you find there will be challenges. So is that also true for your experience, Diego?
Yes. I would say that we are here talking about cultural change between or different cultures between our continents, right? Asia and Europe. But I would say that the thing that most implies in a Lean Six Sigma project is the actual company culture more than I would say than the country culture, you know. So I often say that company culture has, of course, a major role in Lean Six Sigma implementation, and the resistance to change is a very common reaction when things are changing. And we, as a Rising, have seen this behavior many times. So I think that when you are performing a Lean Six Sigma project, the company mindset must be aligned with the willingness to improve. And there is a big equation and a very important equation in Lean Six Sigma projects, which is quality times acceptance equals effect. So you may have the best solution of all, and it, let's say on 1 to 10, on 0 to 10 scale, you have a 10. But the acceptance of the team is 0. As you may know, the effect will be 0. But if you have a poor reasonable solution, let's say with a 5, and the acceptance is higher, is very big, people get motivated to solve that issue, the effect is big, is very big. So this is a very important equation. And when people are involved in the continuous improvement process, the people gain the habit of be critical about everything surrounding them, and they gain the sense that they are contributing for an essential issue in the company. And that is when you know that the company culture is changing and changing for a continuous improvement culture. I don't know if
No, this is, and I love the little formula that you said: quality into acceptance equals
effect. It's
right.
A very simple equation, but very, very important.
But then what I also heard Toosy say, and I think you also kind of seconded that, is that there's got to be an internal readiness.
Yes.
There's got to be a desire to accept this kind of engagement, this kind of change, this kind of, mentality. So, and we've also kind of agreed that it doesn't matter where you are geographically. It's the corporate culture that basically drives a demand for Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma. But so far, so good. But you know what? I'd like to flip this discussion completely now, say from saying that, oh, there's got to be an internal demand or there's got to be an internal readiness. How do we, as people who are promoting the idea of efficiency and Lean Six Sigma tools to build or optimize customer outcomes, how do we convince people who might not quite be at the critical mass of asking us to come and do a Six Sigma project with them? It's also our job to go out and present the benefits to senior management, to internal champions, to decision makers in companies. So what do you see in your own roles and your own experience as some of the arguments you make to clarify, convince, and motivate corporate leadership or decision makers in considering Six Sigma as a strategic ally for their transformation?
I would say that at least in our niche is a very hard process, okay? Because at least I would say that corporate companies, let's say, who have a bigger group, even inside Portugal, they have a tree of decision that people are hired to do that role as managers, to do that role, and they are very open to hear and to get involved in this type of processes. And I think that their openness is not. I think they are more open-minded than the other reality here in Portugal, which is companies that have, let's say, a owner, one owner, the guy that rose all the company from scratch to where it is now, and those types of companies are much more harder to, let's say, convince that this is a very good process. They feel that it is, but afterwards they think on the money, what will be the payback, and we start in this spiral of discussion that it's very hard to get out. And the other companies which have a more corporate structure, where you have a CEO as an advisor or a contracted CEO, let's say, not the owner is not the CEO. You have a CEO hired for the job. I think those companies are much more open-minded to this kind of projects, you know.
Right. But I guess we still need to unpack this the original question, which is what arguments, what reasons, what evidence do we have that would convince or sensitize positively some of the people you just mentioned as the difficult customers, like owner-led companies? Because I also see that eRising's primary niche is in SMEs and smaller companies, and not the large multi-layered corporates that you mentioned. So that would be, so while you think about some of that, we can pop quickly to see and ask what you would go in and explain to some of these less convinced people as being the reason they should be going in for a Six Sigma program, right, Toosy?
Yeah, one key thing is engagement. Engaging and asking their problems, asking them their core problems. When you're talking to the top management, when you've got the meeting with the top management, you start questioning their problems. You listen more. You first need to listen more and ask them, and then you actually lead the questions, you lead the discussion in such a way that the person somehow comes up with the right answer, in which you ask why. And one tool of Lean Six Sigma is 5 whys, in which you keep on asking why. Why do you think this happened? Why do you think this happened? It'll actually, most probably in a lot of situations, they come up with that these guys don't give me the right information. I don't get the right information, and I just do something, it doesn't work. And then you say, why doesn't it work? Why doesn't it have like that? Or you could do something like that and it could work, and they would actually start feeling.
But most of the time we are told, in most of the business courses and some of the tips that in fact we've shared ourselves is that, the first impression is important. So if some of our participants are considering a career as Six Sigma advisors, Six Sigma experts, Six Sigma team leaders, what tip do we have for them? What is that first impression that they want to make going to look like? What do you say? What do they go into a company and say? Engagement is long drawn. We also have a comment which says that, LSS is a long process, etc. We all seem to, this conversation's indicated that you need to build relationships to bring the conversation to a point where they'll begin to, become convinced. So I'd like to swing back to Diogo and say,
Dr. Fess,
what's the argument?
Yeah, one point which hit the top management of a global company after a discussion which I've recently had was the concept of do more with less. Ultimately, do more with less, and the concept of improvement does not necessarily mean layoffs. It may, but it does not necessarily mean. So the goal has to be for the improvement. The goal shouldn't be that the goal should be that I want to improve this. The goal, I mean, the solution might be you have more extra people, or maybe you have less people. You know once you have the data in front of you. So you should have no preconceived ideas. And the goal all goes around how you could actually convince them how it's been done in particular in their sector, in their world, maybe in a different country, or maybe in their own country. And I give and sometimes you have to talk in their language.
So your tip
language is also important.
Your tip is to go in there and explain to them how they can do more with less, and it doesn't need to actually result in human visit number one, because everybody likes that. If somebody came to
everyone likes that, but that's not the solution. So that could be the solution, but it does not necessarily mean the solution.
No, what I'm saying is everybody likes to not hurt people. So when you go and say you can do more with less, and it necessarily doesn't have to hurt people, then that's a very strong line. And then you also talk about specific examples from industry, specific examples from comparable experience where they can relate their thinking to that. Those are two excellent points. Diogo, anything else to add to that?
Yes, I would actually like one, Dr. Fess, I would like to actually just once. Bob Emiliani, practitioner turned academic, says that if it is dehumanizing people, then you're not doing lean, you're doing something else. So that's also something which we need to understand. This whole thing does not dehumanize people. Diego, please, could you actually add in?
I would like also to add that at least in our reality, and the owners or the CEOs that we work with, I don't find quite important to mean Lean Six Sigma during at least the first meeting, at least in the first conversation, because people, they know what we do when we go to the company or to the client. They know what we do. I don't think that these owners would like to hear what methodology problem are we going to use. They would like to know if we can solve their problems. Okay, so I think that what they need to feel during this first intervention and this first expression is like to talk, and we as experts ask questions, and they will feel relieved for letting out all these challenges that they have, all these, I don't like to use it as a problems, I like to refer them as challenges. Let them talk about these challenges, and then we will start slowly talking about Lean Six Sigma as a methodology to solve it. And when the time comes, we give examples of past successful projects that we did as Lean Six Sigma experts, and I think that's that.
Okay, great. Well, it's now 6:23, and in the 7 minutes we have for this seminar, I must say these have been great kind of insights. We're already getting questions, as you might imagine. Kondur Harigopal says, how to change employee attitudes, behavior, and desires to apply the basic concept. So it's basically along the lines that the earlier question was, how do you get employees? So far we've been talking about decision making. I believe the second part of the same question would be, how do you get down to the level of the employees and help build that behavior change that assists and aids transformation?
Yeah, that is, Dr. Fez, that is an excellent question. And that comes down to one, this is a very big problem. And partly I attribute this problem to the way it has been framed, the body of knowledge has been framed. Like change management is, I think it's an essential part of Lean Six Sigma. Similarly, what the Diego actually went through the same something similar, training similar, which had change management in it, and we did the Master Black Belt together. And similarly in my offerings, change management is part of my green belt, and the whole change management is part of the Black Belt course. And I also have lean leadership in that in my Black Belt. So the whole thing is that you have to talk to the people, and talk and gain. The stakeholder management needs to be there, and that stakeholder management needs to be at different levels. And for every level, we have to have a different communication strategy. We need to understand that there's no one bullet, one silver bullet. Everything has to be done differently, and how that is going to be done. Like I once went to for a training, and as soon as I went to the training, I just realized that I've always delivered the training in English. My presentation was in English too, and I realized that the participants could not even understand English. So I had to actually obviously change my language, and I delivered that in Urdu, and sometimes sometimes I even had to speak in Punjabi. Now, if I am going to go to interior Sindh and going to train people over there, then maybe I would need to speak in Sindhi, because maybe some people would not even understand Urdu. And I actually have an intention of delivering a session in which there's me, I'll be speaking in English, there'll be someone who's going to be speaking in Sindhi, translating whatever I'm saying. So that's also a mode of actually communicating to the grassroots level, to make the other person understand the way they can understand. We need to actually take our lenses off. We need to understand we know things, but that doesn't mean that the other person is going to know the same thing. And the language we're using does not mean that the other person is going to understand that language. And that language could be the English, Urdu, or some other, or that language could be the tone or the way we are communicating. Maybe we need to understand what the person needs to hear, what is making the person fearful, and try to solve that real problem of that real incident, of isolating that. Why is he fearful? Why are they going to be skeptical? When I'm going to a particular type of people, how am I supposed to make sure that they are comfortable with me? I mean, I remember I going to a meeting and I met a person and I realized that the way I've actually dressed was wrong, because I was wearing branded clothes and the other person was from a village, and it was in a village. So you need to actually dress up, you need to communicate according to and have the slang and the words, terminologies according to what they understand. Similarly, if you're going to the top, and you're talking, you need to make sure that it's as precise as possible.
This is what they call eye-level conversations. You don't appear to be different. Excellent. We have a couple of other questions, and we're out of time. But there's this. I'd like to take at least the top 2 or 3. One, of course, is that from Paulo from Portugal is asking, lots of large consultancy companies promise a lot of solutions to people's problems, but they don't really implement a culture of change. So what would you like? How do we convince these guys that this is a long process, and how do we keep them engaged and motivated to continue to engage with us? Actually, 2 questions are asking a similar, one from Pallavi and one from Paolo. So it's a long process, we need to tell them, but how do we keep them engaged over the sort of the long period? And please try to make these short, because we've just got 2 minutes to go, and then we'll over to you.
I would focus more on the part of the engaged, and this is highly related with the previous question that you asked, Toosy, which is people sometimes have resistance to change, and the way to get them in, and there are no magic formulas to get them engaged and to get them motivated, but there are some tools that helps you structure your mindset so you can know how to react with them. And for example, there is in Lean Six Sigma, there is a very powerful graphic, which is highly qualitative and not quantitative, but it is called the stakeholders map, and this map tells you about the synergy and the antagonism of people during the process. And that's where you map if people in each phase of the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. That's where you map how people are behaving during all the phases, and how should you, if someone is getting more opponent from your perspective or from the objectives of the project, how can you just drag them to the more center area of this map, you know. There are no magic formulas, I repeat. It also comes with experience, but there are some tools as this one which help you to visualize and clarify how the different intervenients in the team are behaving, let's say. I have a pretty good example, but maybe we don't have enough time.
Well, you know, this is the thing is, we still have another seminar coming up in a few days. So it's good to have one or two questions still kind of waiting so that people can come back for those. But one thing that has become clear to me through this conversation is that there's a lot more to Lean Six Sigma than you can get out in a 1 hour webinar. And that the real fun is going to be when you get into an actual program, like the Green Belt program is coming up, Black Belt program is coming up. So I hope some of our questioners will continue to return to our webinars and then choose to pick up the training program. So it's now, we're 1 minute over, but we still have time to thank both of you, Mohamed Toosy and Diogo Jorge, for coming from different ends of two continents and joining us in Bangkok for this webinar. Thank you once again for your time. And I'd also like to thank all people watching who've been with us through this hour, and also for all the people who put in some excellent questions. And I hope we were able to respond with some clarity. Once again, thank you all, and we hope to see you next week in the next series. Cheers. Bye-bye.